Hello, folks. My name is Octavian. Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be another episode of Free Mike with me on EpicSkillshot's channel. Very glad to be here. Glad you guys are here too. And let's get right into it, shall we? This is a SoloQ game from the highest levels of North America, specifically including Alex Ich in the mid lane. He did move to North America. He's been playing around on these servers and making a few attempts at getting back into the pro scene. He's been doing a stint with Ninjas in Pyjamas, as well as with a team sort of with him as the centerpiece to it, called Brawl, that didn't make it too far, but he's been trying to get back in there, and he's been playing SoloQ, been practicing a lot. It's going to be interesting to watch. He's on a Smurf, of course, didn't port his account over from Europe. He started a new one over here on our server called Very Strong Mid. Accurate description, I would have to say. And he's going to be playing Kassadin in the mid lane. We've got a few other big names in this game as well, of course. Bottom lane, Sneaky and Aphromoo. Aphromoo repping that new Arclight Varus skin. I always love the Arclight skins. They do so much interesting work on them, good designs. They even changed the way the particles look, though I do have one minor complaint as a shoutcaster with Arclight Vel'Koz. Has quite a lot of stuff going on all the time, and it can get really, really distracting during a team fight. But I digress. We're going to see Lee Sin actually starting off at his red buff this time. No leash from any of the laners. Maybe that's why I decided to start the red buff, as Senpai is going to do some damage here onto Alex Ich. Actually takes half of his health there. A good amount of damage coming from the minions, as well as those early Qs actually hurting quite a bit. Not much magic resistance spec'd into in the runes here for Jace, I believe. Though I may actually be wrong. Hopefully that's not the case. That would be embarrassing. Aphromoo taking an explosive shot. Gets chunked down a little bit, as Tristana and Janna manage to hit the level 2 just around the same time as Sneaky and Aphromoo. Up in top lane, Magic is going in with the counter strike, going to be stunning up Hickus, doing some good damage here, and Jax certainly has the stronger early lane as compared to a Cho'Gath. Not strong enough to dive into the tower, though. Minions, 2 more shots, 1 more shot. First blood by the thinnest of slivers of health bars. Jax goes down in the end. That hero mage minion securing the kill, as Senpai is going to turn around and harass back onto Alex Ich. And let us return down to the bottom lane here, where Sneaky continuing to push up the wave as best he can. That bot lane starting to go in favor of Jinx here, as Izanari actually getting chunked down, nearly walks into the Flame Chompers, but does manage to avoid them. Would have been quite disastrous for him if that connected. And there's the level advantage for Aphromoo and Sneaky. Lots of damage going on to Izanari. Nice knock-up from Metal Chocobo. Is going to keep Aphromoo from chasing any further. But he's got a mana pot. He's going to regen. And he's going to keep on spamming out spells. This support Vel'Koz, very, very poke heavy, as Alex Ich actually managing to out-harass a Jace in lane as Kassadin. That is an impressive feat. I am suitably impressed by that. He is doing quite well. He's out-farming him as well. Not only out-harassing him, but out-farming him on top of it, which usually comes as a consequence of out-harassing, but I suppose is not a given. Counter-Strike going to be popped here by Magic again. Doesn't quite land the stun. And Prismal, looking for his first gank of the game, he's going to come bot lane for it. Safeguards in onto Aphromoo, but doesn't manage to land a Q. At least doesn't manage to land it onto an enemy champion. Wasn't quite trying to gank the minion. Pretty sure that was not his intention there. Geometry scales by Aphromoo. Lands another Q onto Janna. And Metal Chocobo is actually going very low on mana, and that is a bad thing for Izanari right now. A lot of the protection that he's had so far in this lane has come out of Metal Chocobo's Janna. And without mana, I don't know where that protection is going to end up. It's going to mean that they're going to have to play even more safe, which will just lead to even more of a CS discrepancy between Izanari and Sneaky. Ooh, here comes the teleport, though, to the bottom lane. Fiddlesticks tried to come in for a gank, but the teleport completely countered it. Didn't even have to complete the teleport to be able to, well, counter out the gank from Fiddle. But I would actually say that is going to be an advantage over the blue team from that trade, as Magic, speaking of trading, is going in onto Hickus here. Hickus has a few minions, though, and Magic doesn't have any of his own at this level. That actually does make quite a difference. Knock-up lands an Aphromoo. He's forced to flash away. The heal pop from Sneaky, as well as here comes the exhaust from Metal Chocobo, but he has no mana to do anything else. Izunari does flash forward, landing an auto attack, finally finishes off the kill, as Prismal really wants this kill. Izunari is going to go down in the end. Sneaky finishing that off. Metal Chocobo trying to kite back, bring down Prismal with the red buff from X-Tiny Teen, as well as the drain. The tether following even through the safeguard does finalize the kill there. Senpai with a nice EQ. Takes what remained of Sneaky's health. He's just going to walk on through with the swagger that Debonair J skin does give him constantly. He is always at 100% swagger mode. There is no off switch. Magic leaping in onto Hickus is going to stun him up. Backs away, though. Doesn't have any mana, so I don't know if he really wanted that fight. Hickus, though, without his cooldowns, doesn't really have any way to take the fight. And so we'll just return to a little bit of farming. And I'm really not sure who just a farm fest in this top lane would favor. Both Cho'Gath and Jax can become monsters late game, though I suppose Cho'Gath is technically a monster the whole game, but my point stands. And, well, with the CS lead, obviously just a farm fest, the CS and kill lead, rather, obviously just a farm fest would fall into the talents of Cho'Gath. But if Jax can manage to equalize this, I think he does have the stronger late game here. Strong mid, Alexich gonna be backing away from that fight as Izunari is getting engaged on here. He has no more summoners up. Aphromoo with the geometry lands a very nice Q. Is maxing that first, so it does chunk, especially if the true damage proc gets to affect him. Nice Q again, going through two people to land on Izunari, but I don't know if that fancy play was worth it. Ooh, he's gonna get out with just under 100 hit points left as Metal Chocobo can't quite put out the damage he needs to. And Izunari gets harassed away by continual rockets from Sneaky. Maybe we'll see another EQ combo. We do! Senpai takes down Aphromoo. He's trying to escape here from the revenge that Sneaky and Prismal are attempting to put towards him. There's the Crowstorm, but it lands right onto the Jinx Snare. Prismal gets knocked up as Alex H comes in from the back lines. He's forced to flash away, however, just to try and keep himself alive, but Sneaky is going huge here. He has no fear. Maybe he should have a little bit of fear, though. Izunari is going to explode him with a Goomba Stomp, and Prismal, nowhere left to run, might actually be going down here. Whoa, he turns around with the instant double Q and manages to trade at least 1 for 1. But that does put Senpai on a killing spree. To be fair, Alex Itch still has a CS lead, but whoa, Hickus! Hickus does not care. Towers are not a problem. Cho'Gath is the solution to towers. He's just gonna jump in, or just walk in, really. I mean, he's Cho'Gath. He doesn't have a way of jumping at you. He just walks at you. And if you don't give him the respect that he deserves, even under a tower, he can be very, very dangerous. Turning that Jax into a bit of a feast. Ooh, Tien maybe going to be invaded on here. He does manage to smite away his blue buff before Hickus can do anything, but he loses the 2 tiny minions, which actually, ever since the jungle changes at the start of the season, is something of a big deal. They are worth a good amount more gold than they used to be. That was 42 gold, as you saw, picked up by Hickus with the Feral Scream, so not as important as if he had managed to steal away the blue buff, obviously, but still something perhaps impactful. Sneaky and Aphromoo engaging here. Metal Chocobo walking right up on Sneaky, dropping the exhaust as well. Nicely predicted knockup from Aphromoo, interrupting Izunari as soon as he lands, keeping Sneaky alive and buying time for Hickey to show up, or Hickus to show up, and take on a feast stack again. Senpai cut off to the side, lands the EQ again! Can this man miss? He gets shut down, finally. But that was past both Alex H and Aphromoo. Neither one of them able to body block it. And slammed right on past, bringing Sneaky down in an explosion of beautiful, shiny light. That is going to translate perhaps into a dragon here for Red Team. No Tornado Steals today. Prismal, with the smite, secures it. They did lose their turret in top lane for all of that attention and focus that they threw towards the bottom side of the map. Hickus teleporting down, and of course, the jungler being down there as well, Prismal dedicating that time to taking the dragon. But I would say that with the amount of damage that Hickus has got onto this enemy bottom lane turret, as well as the fact that they picked up a dragon, and arguably won that fight, it was a 2-for-1 trade, so I would say that they did indeed win that fight. They came out ahead overall, and that puts them about even overall. It is a 16.3 to 16.1 gold deficit on the board right now. Tiny Teen might be in a lot of trouble. Turns around with the fear to keep himself alive. And Izanari, trading a few auto attacks with Sneaky, is going to go about even. Aphromoo finally returning to lane as Hickus is making his presence felt across the map. Really using that teleport to his advantage. Q landing on a magic. Prismal going in flash at the same time as ulting backwards. There's the Chilling Smite to slow magic up, and he's going to pop his ult to try and survive through this, but I don't know that he's really going to be able to. Alex Ich finishing off the kill. And that is going to be the second kill of the game for Kassadin, looking to be building into a Rod of Ages. A good choice, certainly a good choice there. Q lands into Izanari, slowed a bit, doesn't get knocked up either by the Cho'Gath or the Vel'Koz, and I don't know if Fiddlesticks can really handle this. Bit off way more than he could chew, and it ended up with his AD carry going down, and Aphromoo flashing after him for the ulti. The true damage procs are there, but Tiny Tien, oh, he gets hit! He gets hit by the very edge of the rupture, and there's the knockup again from Aphromoo, connecting on magic mid-leap. This guy is on point with his tectonic disruptions. Magic is gonna go down, and Sneaky is surely not gonna get that kill. He actually gets shut down. The Zap and the Flame Chompers both were dodged away from. Janna is quite tricky to land skill shots on sometimes. EQ combo not quite taking down Hickus as Alex Ich looks to dive here onto Senpai. Knockup, very edge of it landing. And Senpai has no way out of this, but maybe he can get a kill out of it. The Ignite is landed onto Alex Ich. Aphromoo, though, with the max range Q, saves Alex Ich's life by taking out the last remaining threat. And Hickus with a knockup is going to stop any potential pursuit from Izanari here. And overall, Red Team just took a huge chunk of a lead right there, bringing down their first start of the game, and more importantly, getting 5 kills, multiple of them being on carries. Sneaky doing very well in terms of kills, not quite as well in terms of deaths. He is half of his team's deaths, but there's been a lot of focus down on bottom lane. And Jinx with a Vel'Koz support, while we have seen some very, very nice knockups from Aphromoo, and I don't want to deprecate the value of those, it's still a pair of immobile laners, and it's still very, very difficult if there's a ton of pressure on them not to go down in the end. As we see Sneaky getting ganked on here, multiple flashes burned to get up next to him, and really as Jinx, he had no real way out of that. And in the end, he's going to give up his life again, 5-1, but he has managed to get 5 kills, which I believe is a lot more of an important statistic than those 5 deaths, because Jinx can scale hyper hard into the late game, and that can really pose some problems, because there's no one on the enemy team who's incredibly tanky and is going to be able to deal with the damage that Jinx will put out. They have a few ways of killing the Jinx potentially. Magic could leap to the backlines, but Magic is really shut down right now. Alex Ich coming in and picking up the kill onto Tristana. And so the fact that Hickus has done so well and Sneaky has managed to pick up some kills, I would have to say Red Team is sitting in a very solid spot right now. Here comes Tiny Tien over the wall with the Fiddlesticks ult. 1-for-1 trade so far. Sneaky's gonna get exhausted by Metal Chocobo, but continue on with the chase even through it. Zap dodge to the side. Very nice sidestep there. Prismal did land the Q, but he does not have Lee Syndrome, it seems. He's got too few hit points to follow up on that Resonating Strike with the Sonic Wave, or Sonic Wave with the Resonating Strike. Lee Sin has too many names, too many different names. It's so difficult for me. Hard problems, friends. Alex Ich, in trouble perhaps in the bottom lane, does have his Kassadin ult though, and there is very little trouble that Kassadin cannot escape. EQ combo not going to quite land on anybody from Senpai, and he'll continue on pushing up the mid lane. And I would like to take a moment and look down at the scoreboard, specifically at this mid lane where we see Alex Ich still has CS dominance. Ooh, Hickus might be in some trouble, getting CC'd to hell and back, silenced, stunned, feared, And he's kind of taunting them a little bit. I don't know if he really should have done that. He sat around and waited for a while. I mean, he has a lot of hit points and a good chunk of magic resist to work with there. But in the end, not even a Cho'Gath can just stand around and take that much damage and that much CC before finally deciding to try and escape. I mean, red team is ahead. As I was harping on earlier, red team is very much ahead at this point. It may not look like a huge lead, but it is certainly... It's the circumstances of the lead that cause me to believe that it is quite a lead, because Kassadin gets rolling real hard later on. In the next 5 minutes, I would have to say, given the scale of this game, how it's been running. Prismal lands the Q into Metal Chocobo, who's going very low. Doesn't quite have the range to follow up on it, though, with the Resonating Strike. And so it looks like Chocobo is going to be able to escape. Did have to burn Flash to get out of there. But, Alex Ich, again, finding a 1v1 with Izunari. Gets out of trouble. Not too difficult for a Kassadin to do. While Sneaky, Prismal, and Aphromoo all head to the bottom lane to kill some minions, and then kill some towers as well. That one's going to be going down pretty swiftly. Jinx, very good at taking those turrets out. Gets free attack speed. And, well, aside from that as well, even in a push, in a siege, she can get the extra long range to poke down a tower every now and then. But Metal Chocobo, there's the Jinx ult, but it's countered out by the Monsoon. Survives with barely any hit points. The Monsoon, though, is much more important to blue team than the Super Mega Death Rocket is to red. The Monsoon is their way of keeping Kassadin from the backlines, their way of keeping Lee Sin from getting an engage, their way of saying no to the Cho'Gath who tries to walk in and feast onto somebody. Super Mega Death Rocket, just a bit more damage for Sneaky. A way to finish somebody off like he just tried to do there. It's really not as incredibly important, especially considering the map control that red team is putting out right now. They probably aren't going to need that extra little bit of damage to win a team fight. Perhaps to get an ace or to crush a team fight they would, but just to win one, just to come out ahead enough, acceptably ahead, they aren't going to need that Jinx ult, whereas the Monsoon is going to be very important. So if we do see a team fight within the next few minutes, it might go badly for blue. Magic flashing after Hickus, who also flashes in return, and that's just going to be a pair of summoner spells traded by the top lanes. Meanwhile, Dragon was going down on the other side of the map, though. Lots of focus pushed onto Hickus' Cho'Gath, and nothing really gained. I mean, I suppose they got his flash, which is more of a big deal right now, I'd have to say, than Jax's flash. Hickus can make a lot more happen with that summoner spell. Cho'Gath, his major weakness is his inability to get next to people. I mean, he's incredibly tanky. He does absurd amounts of damage when he's built AP, especially with spell penetration because his base values are so very good. And his problem, though, his skill shots are really choreographed, especially his one form of strong CC, Rupture, which shows you where it's going to happen. His animation is incredibly long, so if you're good at dodging, you can usually get out of it. And up in this level of play, pretty much everyone fits that description. And he's a melee champion who has very short range abilities. Even the Rupture is fairly short range, even though it is one of his longer range tools. So the Flash, incredibly valuable for Cho'Gath. It allows him to get next to someone. It allows him to feast on that unsuspecting enemy team member that he's really going to need to land all of that true damage on. Somebody like Senpai, who's doing a lot of the work for blue team right now. He's 6-2-1. He is the shining beacon of hope, which blue team is relying on. He is that city on the hill. But that city is going to fall to pieces if a Cho'Gath gets next to it. Think Godzilla roaming through the streets. And so Hickus losing that flash, much bigger deal than Magic losing his. And I'm going to get on to a different subject right now, because while, however interesting that might be to me, I think we have some more action to talk about. Hickus coming in under the tower onto Magic. Knockup didn't quite land, but he was right next to him anyway, so he did have the feast. And Alex Ich is going to finish off the kill, become unstoppable, and go 5-0-2. His Rod of Ages is completed. He has a needlessly large rod, and he's going Mercury's Dreads, actually, because there is a good amount of CC in the enemy team, especially in the form of, well, just Fiddlesticks by himself. Speaking of Fiddlesticks, he's going to be crow-storming over the wall. However, it might be a little bit too late for his team. He has no backup at this point. Alex Ich forced to flash away. He has barely any health left. The Zephyr didn't quite kill him. The auto attack doesn't kill him. because Dangerous Game keeps him alive as he gets an assist off of the kill from Janna. Aphromoo gonna kite backwards from Izanari. Nice Q. Good use of geometry there. And Alex Ich gets out one of the most implausible ways I think I've ever seen. Chilling Smite gonna be followed up by a QQ combo from Prismal, and it leaves Izanari QQing on the ground. Hickus coming back through the tower. He doesn't care one whit about towers. He is Cho'Gath with a Rod of Ages and a Hunting Guys, not to mention Feast Stacks. So he's got quite a bit of hit points. He's doing pretty well in the hit point department, I'd have to say. He's stacked them up, you might say. Tiny Tien coming into his own jungle here to clear out some pink wards, and this is looking really, really bad for blue team, guys. If you're a fan of the color blue, I apologize for you, because it really does not look like you're going to be seeing the day through to a victory this particular match. But let's not give up all hope quite yet. While red team does have a few hyper carries of their own later on, Kassadin and Jinx, of course, filling those seats. There's a Tristana on blue team, as well as a Jax. And while Jax has not had the best game of it so far, he can always become Jax mode later on. Q not landing from either Cho'Gath or Lee Sin onto Magic, so he's going to be able to walk away there, which is a nice change from the last few times we've seen him out and about. He's 5-1, not been having the best luck so far this game. But as I was saying, he can certainly become Jax mode later on if he's allowed to get just a few items, complete that Triforce that it looks like he's building into. He's going to actually be going right into the backlines. He is going super aggressive because he knows that this is the fight that his team really needs, but I don't know if they're going to get an instant triple kill for Sneaky. Going to follow it up with a Quadra long-range rocket, taking that one out. And they can hunt down Tristana. We might see Sneaky pick up a pentakill. Alex Ich going to the backlines, gets ulted away. Buster Shot going to keep him at a distance. And it doesn't look like Sneaky's going to get the penta that he probably wanted here. But he does get a Quadra. Instant triple off of that Jinx ult. Does huge chunks of damage here. Sneaky really doing amazingly this game. 12-5-1. He had a bit of a rough start. He was 5-5 earlier on. I believe I actually mentioned that specifically. But he's certainly coming to his own as this game has progressed, as he's finished off all of that crit chance in his inventory, which is a really, really interesting build to go on a Jinx. I don't often see a Yumu's Ghostblade, but I can really actually see the merit in it. The movement speed would help you kite, but aside from that, the extra attack speed and the crit chance that it gives you stacks nicely with the Infinity Edge Rush that a lot of AD carries are going with, and the Brutalizer is really nice because she has a lot of AD ratios. So really, Yumu's just going to be working in Sneaky's favor a lot, and it seems like it worked very well in his favor because look, we have a victory. Red team going to be taking it home. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Octavian, and I'll see you next time.